Joined the army, went away and did four and a half years service, including my training. I left after my overseas service, probably with some signs of mild PTSD, and he let six rounds go. I copped two, one fairly high up in my chest and another one through my trap. You know, the judge sentenced me to 7 years for dealing commercial quantities of cocaine, and at the time I was a nominee member of an outlaw motorcycle club. I got to stand up as a man and transition through that, and I said, Dad, this is not the end, this is just the beginning.
Young soldier of God, steady march.
Yo, it's your boy Dave here, and this is the Fallon Show. Hope all is going well out there. God bless you all. How about you introduce yourself, my brother, and where you're from?
Absolutely. My name is Andrew Geldert. My friends and family call me Drew. I'm a coach, mentor, holistic wellness practitioner. Been doing that full time for the past 3 to 4 years after stepping out of my corporate role. Happy to lean into that part of the story. Living in alignment with my passion and purpose. Thanks very much for having me on the show. I love what you're doing, love what the show's about. So congratulations to you. We're just talking before the podcast on, you know, the stigma and the glass ceiling, so to speak. So you've stepped through that. So big celebration of that to you. And again, thanks for having us on the podcast.
Yeah, no, absolutely no worries, brother. And it's definitely a pleasure to have you on, man, and to get your insights and, you know, what you've been able to overcome in your life, bro. Beautiful story of redemption. This guy, first of all, go check him out on TikTok. I'll leave the links in the description and the comments, man. Go check him out. Yeah, so this guy has been involved in the army and things like that. He's been through a lot in his childhood as well, which, you know, led him to the army. From there, you know, he was involved in the underworld and things like that, motorcycle clubs and whatnot, and then eventually he landed in prison, unfortunately, and then through there he's been able to really come out and make that change.
Look, I'm living a blessed life, just living in line with my passion, my purpose. Last year I've finished off my coaching and mentoring, and I've been called to deliver my messages of love, hope, healing, and transformation to the world on stepping out into a global stage. So, like you said, it's been an interesting journey, Dave. Look, we've all got a story to tell. No one's is more or less than anyone's. Again, we've all got a journey. The whole way through my story of redemption, I applied, the mindset of I'm not the sum of my past mistakes. We're the sum of the lessons learned. Right. And as you know, transitioning through a term of imprisonment, we get choices throughout that time. And then when we progress after that journey on how we're going to apply ourselves, we can either choose to think that, that we have a glass ceiling, that, I'm not going to be able to get a job. I'm going to be judged by society. I'm going to judge and condemn myself. And that sets us up for this limiting belief. And my time, I remember the day I was sentenced like it was yesterday. The judge sentenced me to 7 years for dealing commercial quantities of cocaine. And at the time I was a nominee member of an outlaw motorcycle club. And I walked past I'd gone through my whole court journey after being, identified as the target of an undercover police operation, and my international cocaine dealing syndicate being brought down. I went through that whole court journey. I said, I've got myself into this mess. I've got to stand up as a man and transition through that. And my dad was in the court that day, the day of sentencing. I walked past him. I said, Dad, this is not the end. This is just the beginning. Because I knew what was about to unfold in front of me was just, I wish I could have fathomed it. Even that was profound for me to say that, because it's one thing I said walking past him. Little did I know what was about to happen to me was not going to happen to me, but happen for me. A really, really beautiful journey of healing and transformation for me. Happy to dive into that. Take that where you want. But yeah, again, without that journey. Looking back for me now, it is my reality. My truth is, without that, I wouldn't be who I am. So in a way, I'm very thankful, very grateful, very humbled by my journey and the gifts that it gave me. And I don't think 6 or 12 months would have done it for me. I was sentenced to 7 years. I did 5 years.
Wow, brother. Again, man, beautiful story of redemption, this one. So Bro, that's awesome to hear, my bro. But I mean, to go back a little bit, my man. So I mean, so were you saying so small country town upbringing was it originally, or?
Yeah, a little mining town, a couple of hours south of the city in Perth. Had a very blessed younger childhood up to about the age of 7. Mum and dad ended up breaking up, separating. Bit of turmoil there. Yeah, and unfortunately, Mum went looking for love in all the wrong places, and there was a number of men that were brought into our lives as young kids that were negative role models, and they're broken men themselves. Brought that brokenness into our family, and one specific guy that had a profound impact on me as a young man was an alcoholic, very violent, very abusive, and watching Mum be exposed to that level of trauma, and us as well, and me not being able to save her had just a profound impact on me. Really changed the outcome of my young childhood. Yeah, certainly. So off the back of that, I think any kid, we're born as this beautiful, innocent child, with all the confidence. So, and I remember being that young kid. I was just happy. I was go lucky. I was confident. I loved people, loved myself. I had the best life, and then we're tainted. I guess we're programmed and conditioned, and unfortunately, the exposure to that it evoked some emotion in me. And I became the product of that emotion for sure. Yeah. Stayed in that little country town. I did move out later on, but spent most of my childhood up to about 16 in that small country town. Yeah.
So how does school and things go for you, man? Did you end up finishing school at all, or?
I went through to year 11. I did have hopes to become a pilot. I did repeat year 10 with the hope to get better grades and transition to that. But I was always plagued. I could never concentrate. School became a bit of a social occasion, and I was bullied a bit, picked on a bit as a kid. Another pivotal moment. I remember coming home one day to this particular stepfather of mine. I had a big fat eye, and he said, "Oh, what happened to you, boy?" He's like, I said, I got in a fight and I lost. He said, "Well, what'd you do about it when he hit you?" I said, I couldn't do anything about it. I didn't know what to do. So he put me in the car. He took me down to the local PCYC boxing training place, and I was the only white guy there. There's all these little talented Noongar kids, and they all took me under their wing. And I'd already been through that traumatic phase with my stepfather, which culminated in him attempting suicide and me saving his life. But
Wow.
so I was already angry. I already felt that, not being able to save Mum. I was an angry kid. And being now taken down to boxing lessons, I now had the anger and the skill set. And so school for me was about, this story of retribution of, the boys, the older boys that would pick on me and bully me. And now I started to gain what I thought was that respect at school, and it wasn't. It was fear. Again, my school days were plagued with that. I was heavily involved in footy, talented AFL footy player. But again, my attitude was always, it was overly aggressive. That was my stance. So that inhibited me in school and through sport as well. So always an underachiever. I was always told you got enormous potential. You're just failing to realize it. But yeah, obviously off the back of, becoming the product of my broken childhood, wasn't until later on in life that I really realized that I had become the product of that environment. Yeah.
Well, so from there, man, so you eventually joined the army, wasn't it, bro? So how old were you at that time?
Yeah, I left school as quickly as I could after year 11, and straight away, there was a couple of months of turmoil where I realized I was going nowhere, and thought I've got to do something with my life. So I joined the army, went away and did four and a half years service, including my training. Did a period of overseas service in East Timor when that kicked off. I got back. I had plans to join the SAS. I didn't quite get there. and thought I'd done everything, experienced everything in the army, and got out of the army and came back home. But for a little while there, I was also a talented soldier, showed a lot of promise in the early days and achieved a lot. Getting through to Recon Snipers in my battalion, and obviously having the view to progress into the SAS. Again, that didn't come through. So yeah, once I gained that experience, I was off again. Next experience. So yeah.
What is that environment like, man, for a young, angry guy that's come from where you've come from? Are there a lot of other guys that have similar backgrounds in the army, or?
Look, it's the progression when you first come into your period of training is everyone, you know, you arrive on different ships, yeah, but you're all on the same ship now. So it does, there's a camaraderie there. For me, I didn't really meet anyone too much on the scale that I was, but because we're all in there together, and yeah, the army does it. You know, I went into the infantry, so I remember our instructors, they were aggressive. You know, I remember getting off the bus day one, they're screaming at us. So they were aggressive. So I sort of felt, okay, well, my aggression is half normal. And not only that, but through your training, especially in the infantry, you know, you get taught to use bayonets and stab things. They're encouraging you to be angry, right? So there's this whole connection to the fighting spirit and, you know, being a soldier. And so yeah, it didn't do me any favors in the end. Actually, I left after my my overseas service, probably with some signs of mild PTSD, and you know, more broken and more angry than what I walked in after that experience. So yeah, definitely.
So I mean, so why did you leave? So you couldn't make this SAS, so you decided to move on to the next thing.
Yeah, after 4 years of being told what to do and how to do it, and
that's a long time, man. 4 years.
Yeah, that's minimum term of service at that point. So yeah, I just had my sights set. You know, the last year or so of my service was like, I've had enough. So and I, like I said, I'd achieved everything. I'd been overseas, got your, they call it gongs, I got your medals. You know, got myself to Recon Snipers, been a part of, you know, really high level battalion competitions. And yeah, I just come to the end of that experience, and I was seeking a new experience, a fresh experience. So I was never going to be a career soldier. I was being challenged at that time by the discipline that was trying to be forced upon me. So yeah, I was pretty keen to move on.
So where did you move on, man? So you went back to Perth, was it?
Yeah, I did. I went back to my hometown. I moved from little mining town to a more coastal city in Bunbury, and went
sorry,
back.
Sorry, can I quickly ask as well? Was drugs or alcohol ever in the picture by this point, or?
Oh, look, as a young guy, I you know, pot and alcohol were, you know, before the army. Yeah, I drank through the army, but I was a little bit more focused and disciplined in terms of the use of alcohol, but never anything more than a weekend, you know, getting on the piss or smoking a few cones or whatever. So yeah, had to obviously curtail that a little bit through the army. But yeah, up until the point I got back home, no, I was never an addict. I was never, you know, I was always more concerned with my health and well-being. So I did have that trait in me. I was always fit. I was always training, you know, being a talented footy player. So I respected my body and mind that way. But like any young guy, you know, we all get pissed. We'll try some things, but never anything outside of pot and alcohol, brother.
So okay, so you've ended up coming home, and then
yeah, got home, and my brother and some mates were already tied up in you know, in dealing and taking and the whole party scene. So getting back out of the army and wanting to just spread my wings, and I was already a bit of a free spirit anyway. So just walk back into it's just a whole new world that I'd never seen or discovered before. You know, party drugs, which I'd never had. You know, ecstasy and speed and all these things. I was trying that. And having the time of my life. I didn't work. I came back. I went halves in a house with my brother, so I had somewhere to go and live. I had a few savings in my account from my overseas service and my army time. So life there was chaotic when I got back. I just hit the ground and just again started partying, going out, the whole party scene, and just it was just took me on that was the start of the ride of becoming immersed in that scene and more entrenched, rather than it was just a weekend party scene. For me, it became, you know, a lifestyle that that I really became immersed in.
When would you say things got like what would you say, like darker, you know, in that world?
Look, it wasn't long after I got back that, you know, sticking up for my mates and backing them up against some other prominent identities really brought me to the attention of who were the local identities in town, and that were both Underworld and Outlaw Motorcycle Club identities. And I became their focus, and rubbing shoulders with them, with those guys, then took that whole party scene, and I began dealing drugs to facilitate my lifestyle. And again, that took another level. So at that time, it was basically that I was entrenched fairly soon after. I would say within 6 to 12 months, I'd entrenched myself in that way of life, and went back with the intention of dragging my brother out of that. And actually, yeah, it got hold of me. Yeah.
All right, so the streets have gotten a hold of you. That scene has taken you under now. So I mean, how did the next couple of years go for you, man, as you've gotten more entrenched, and how was your whole, like, would you say, like you said, you had mild PTSD as well coming back? So how was your whole mental state during all of this time over the next few years?
Yeah, a lot of anxiety. Again, mix that with anger and volatility, which is what I was. Yeah, it wasn't a healthy mindset. So let me skim over, because I could fill the dots in pretty. I was entrenched for 10 years of my life. For me, it was February 2002. I was obviously I got out about 2000, 2001. So by this time we're 12 or 18 months in. This just goes to show how quickly I got myself in so deep. We were hanging out at a nightclub. A brother of mine who was nomming for the club I was involved in, we went up against another outlaw motorcycle club in a nightclub, and one of the opposing members pulled a gun and didn't want to go fist to fist. And I decided to run towards him, thinking that he wasn't going to use it, that he was bluffing. And he let six rounds go. I copped two, one fairly high up in my chest and another one through my trap. My other mate got shot in the stomach, and a girl in the nightclub copped a ricochet off a cement pillar into the back of her neck. So that didn't stop me. I wore that like a semi badge of armor, because luckily enough for me, after two major surgeries, I recovered fairly quickly. And yeah, my body and my mind recovered. I remember going back to stand right in the spot that we got shot, and really confronted that to make sure that we weren't holding on to any fear. And again, this was the warrior bravado ego journey that I was on at that time. And look, those years were again involvement, and I was not long after I was charged with extortion. I beat that charge. I had the news following me around in that local little sort of town city place, and the walls closed in on me fairly quickly. So I moved out of that small town up to the city in Perth, and same connections, same lifestyle, same everything, but just a bigger pond. So yeah, here I was up in the city making a name for myself in the local nightclub scene as well. And again, hanging out with the underworld elite and Outlaw Motorcycle Club elite, and quickly became a nominee member. And within about 18 months of my nomship, I became the target of an undercover police operation, which netted me and my international cocaine dealing syndicate. And that was the time my whole world came crashing down around me. And yeah, the whole court journey, being sentenced. I ended up being sentenced. I charged for just under a kilo of cocaine, and was sentenced to 7 years of imprisonment. Got exactly what I needed it, because again, that was a very, very beautiful time in my life, that I was going to have a really good opportunity to turn and face myself and ask myself some pretty hard questions in terms of how I got myself to where I was. And yeah, coming to terms with the person and identity that I'd created for myself.
So how did you well, from going to prison and things like that, how did so did you sort of just cut ties at that point with that world, or like how did you go, like sort of stepping away from all of that?
Yeah, look, not being a fully patched member, it wasn't all that too difficult. But, I wasn't sentenced to 6 months. We're looking at 7 years. So, naturally the outside world falls away. And yeah, so that was, my mindset quickly changed from, hang on, this might not be a bad thing for me. It might be exactly what I need, exactly when I needed it. I was a little bit disillusioned and disheartened by what was happening to me. I was finding it was taking a lot of energy to be me, to be the person that I'd created. And yeah, again, just a beautiful time for me to turn and face, look in the mirror, and I found myself wanting to own everything that had happened to me, to stop blaming, to stop being this victim mentality. And again, I had some, year on year where I could really dive into my own journey and really confront myself. And again, was the beginning stages of what was an amazing healing journey that I don't think I was ever going to be able to achieve out there in society, having not being able to completely sever from the connections that I'd formed from a friend and brother perspective, and also family and social. So I quickly turned it into a blessing.
Yeah, nice, bro. Nice. So that's what it's all about, man. Turning it all into a blessing in the end.
Yeah.
I mean, so you touched on your time during the prison and how you're able to change it all around. So and take those steps. So how was it getting out from prison?
Yeah, look, first of all, the healing journey for me it's not unique. And I love to describe it, right? Because we can't forgive anything that we can't own, right? We've got to take ownership, and not in self-condemnation, right? If we condemn ourselves, we set ourselves up for self-sabotage, right? So owning our journey in self-love, right? And nurturing ourselves from that point of ownership to say, not only am I taking control of what I can control inside of me, right? In terms of my thoughts, my actions, and my reactions, I want to take back control from everyone that has ever hurt me, right? So both controlling my actions in the past and other people's, right? So when we take ownership, we can then progress into forgiveness. And people get forgiveness mixed up, right? People think, how can I forgive someone that, for me, traumatized my mum or traumatized me? How can I forgive someone that hurt me or that bashed me or whatever? Forgiveness is not the justification of the wrong, right? It's the transcendence of. And people think, I'm never forgiving him. Well, by forgiving someone, again, you're not justifying the wrong. You're separating yourself from that, right? So we've got the forgiveness of ourselves, which is absolutely critical. We've got the forgiveness of others, and that is the transcendence of. And that's people get that mixed up, and I want to make that clear. Forgiveness is not justifying someone's actions. It's just choosing in our current reality to not be defined by our past circumstances, right? And that's the transcendence of. And our ego loves to hold on to this identity that we've invested in. We live in this victim mindset, and we project from that place. So again, we go through ownership, forgiveness, and then reconciliation, which is the putting back together of the broken parts that we recognize in our past that have contributed to our brokenness, right? And then we restitute. After we bring those broken pieces together, we give back. We give our healed self back to the world. A beautiful, beautiful journey. And a quick story on forgiveness. I was lucky enough to be chosen to be involved in a prison course. It was called the Sycamore Tree Program, and it was a victims of crime course where victims of crime would come into behind the prison walls and sit in front of prisoners and describe the impact of crime upon their life. And very, very blessed to hear the story of two elderly people. They were a couple, and their son had been brutally murdered by a drug addict in the block of apartments that their son was living in. And as I listened to them, their emotion welled up, and this was like 18, 19 years in their past, and it was like they were experiencing it right then and there. And they were describing how they became the product of the hate for this man that murdered their son for many, many years, throughout his whole sentence. He came to the end of his sentence, and they're writing letters. They don't want him released. They're describing the hurt. And it wasn't until one of their very close friends turned to them and said, you know that you are the product, that you have become the product of the hate that took your son's life. And it dawned on them that was the truth, that they'd become the product of the hate and the hurt and the brokenness that this son, that their son's murder enacted on their son. So what they describe is this epiphany, this realization that in becoming the product of that hate, that they wanted to let go. So they started their healing and forgiveness journey. They didn't forgive what this man did to their son, but they actually chose love. They chose healing. They chose forgiveness. So instead of fight against this guy's release, they supported his release. They went to see him. They embraced him, got to hug him, got to look in their eyes. They cried together. And more than that, they invited him into their home post-release, right? And they absolutely loved him like he was their son, like he'd replaced the love that they had for him, replaced the love that they had for their son. And I was struck by this. And I just remember thinking that my drug dealing could have been a contributing factor, even though it wasn't, because he was on meth. And although drugs, I'm not saying that. I just had a deep connection, right? I'm not, drugs are drugs. Like let me not minimize anything, right? Because it's complete ownership. But I remember thinking that I could have had an impact or a hand in that crime, number one. And then number two, I looked at those two beautiful elderly people and said, if you can forgive him, I can forgive anything. And not just the people that hurt me, but forgive myself for the hurt that I've caused myself, my kids, my family, society at large. So yeah, a beautiful catalyst for me. And you don't have to go to prison to start that journey. That journey is the power of your choice. And again, it's taking back control from your external environment and empowering yourself from the inside. So yeah, that was the building blocks, the transition through what was a beautiful healing journey. And Davey, I spent day in, day out looking at my time in there as a gift, right? I tested myself to the very depth. I used to envision myself down in a pit of human feces, cigarette butts, spit, because I wanted to immerse myself in the depth of that journey. And it wasn't easy being in there. But when I put myself down, I was very ego driven. I started humbling myself. Instead of being at the front of the food line, defending it like this wannabe tough guy that I thought I was, I put myself at the back of the line. Right? I made sure everybody ate before me. And when I got to the front of the line, what did I see? I saw more food that I could take than I was at the front of the line, because as you know, they're very controlling of the food until everyone's fed, and then you go back for seconds. I was like, hang on a second, I'm humbling myself and getting rewarded for that. Instead of telling people to go and scrub my showers, and if anyone had a problem with that, there was a confrontation. I was scrubbing those showers on my hands and knees. Like, that was me humbling my ego. I went into conversations with the outlook that I wasn't going to swear, I wasn't going to slander, I wasn't going to be involved in talking about crime. I studied. I completed a Bachelor of Business University degree off the back of a diploma of project management, which got me into that degree. So every single day, every single moment, I was testing myself, because I wanted to shed this old identity that I had. And that again, that's the journey of transformation. That's a journey. And again, I love it, because I got out, and there's always a test when you get out and come to the point of release, right? When you get out, you can have all the intention in the world, but you're going to be tested when you get out to implement, to execute this new mindset, this new person that I discovered in there. So that was a whole nother journey. But every single day I made a commitment, and I made a choice to wake up and to extract every single thing I possibly could from that day, right? To shed this old identity, to not be, because as you know, inside, we're locked into these social circles, right? Where people looked at me and looked at my crime and looked at my old connections and tried to hold me in there. There I was talking to prison chaplains. There I was not engaging in conversations. I was being judged, and there was challenges to break that social identity.
Yeah.
But again, a beautiful, beautiful way that I got to journey through that. Being treated as a bikie by the minimum security prison officers, because they didn't want me there. I just looked at it all as tests. They're testing me. They're testing my authenticity to the changes that I'm trying to make. they throw me down the back for something I didn't do. Beautiful. It's just a test, So I was just leaning in. I was almost excited by it. It was just another way I could demonstrate to myself my self-worth and dig in and lean into my own healing journey. So again, a very, very powerful number of years that I had to, again, really immerse in this person, that not just the identity that I'd formed, but the shedding, the transcending of, that's me role modeling. That's me showing and demonstrating both to myself and to the world what any human being is capable of. And I took that so seriously, man. I really did. Yeah.
Man, that's beautiful, Drew. Far up, bro. Well, so how long have you been out for?
So I was released in end of 2016, so 17, 18, 19, 20. So 5 years now. 5 years out and about.
5 years.
Yep.
Not long, brother. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Really. I mean, man. So upon release, man, how did you go about I guess applying this stuff on the outside and getting to where you're at now with what you're doing now?
Yeah, like I said at the start of the show, very conscious about the glass ceiling. If anyone hasn't heard the term glass ceiling, it's like a limitation that we place on ourselves, right? And sometimes because it's glass and it's see-through, right, it's very easy to have it installed, but not really recognize that it's there. It all comes down to self-belief and self-worth. And I was very conscious. I stepped out, telling myself that you can call me an ex-prisoner, you can call me whatever you like. I'm going to show you that I'm not limited by your judgment, and I'm certainly not going to judge myself for the journey that I've taken. And I'm going to prove to the world that I had this vision. I wanted to and still want to become the most successful ex-prisoner to have ever lived. So when I got out, I had my university degree, I had my study, I had this innate drive to show what I was capable of. I'd always been told as a kid, you've got so much potential, but you're failing to capitalize on it. Was here I was. This was my opportunity to show what I was capable of. So I got a job with a mining services company fairly quickly, progressed from supervisor up through to project manager, then on to senior projects, managing projects in the order of 30 to 50 million across the big mining companies, Rio, BHP, FMG. That was the start of my corporate journey. Stepped out of that with the money that I'd made, and bought another company with my business partner. It was a construction company. We turned that company into a multi-million-dollar company. This was just pre-COVID. Unfortunately, the construction industry was really suffering, and so were we. Working 18, 19, 20-hour days, building big teams, which was a passion of mine. And led me, to take the next step in my journey. We had to make a tough decision to close that company down because it wasn't succeeding and it was eating us alive. And at that point, I lost when I brought that news home. My long-term partner who'd supported me through my whole term of imprisonment, supported me through that old lifestyle. She didn't want me to start that business and get out of the fly-in, fly-out lifestyle, and I said I was going to anyway, and I did. And when I brought the news home that the business had failed, and that I basically risked everything, she said, well, we're done. So I lost the business and my 18-year relationship at the same time. I walked out of the house with a bag, as most fathers do. And I had this deep sense that this too was, yes, it was a fork in the road, but it wasn't going to take from me. It was going to add everything to me, because I shed the skin of the old business, shed the skin of an old relationship, which really I wasn't really happy in anyway. I'd gone through this deep journey of transformation, and I don't think my partner at the time really realized who I'd become. So there was an alignment there, and I just knew that was another catalyst, and that called me into my passion. I knew in my corporate life that I wasn't deeply satisfied by that, and there was something more for me, and I had this calling to step into what I was passionate about in life, and what I was passionate about is helping people realize that, and realize their own success and realize their own capabilities, and building teams in that corporate environment for me was my passion. And I had this deep calling saying, what are you doing? When I reflected on my journey, I'd gone through all these experiences, overcome all of them, and I knew I had these gifts now to give back to the world. So I shut down that corporate life and stepped into coaching and mentoring. I did a lot of skill sets, holistic wellness practitioner. I breath work, hypnotherapy. I wanted any modality that you could have that could add value to people's lives. I studied it, coaching, mindset, psychology of success, you name it. And became, stepped into coaching, dropped everything, did some branding, got myself out there for the first year. There was a lot of coaches out there, successful coaches. Didn't get much business, struggled, just kept believing. And over years built up my client base, got my name, and just kept leaning in, never doubted myself. And it's got me to here. And now I'm being called even more to release my genius. We've all got a genius, brother. Don't let anyone think that I think I'm a genius. We've all got a genius. It's a matter of how much we want to live in alignment with that calling, with that still small voice. Behind the mask, we've all got this calling, I believe, and it's up to us to have a responsibility to find out what that is, to find out why we're born on this earth, which is not for no reason. You're given life, you're given an opportunity every day to realize the fullest expression of who we're born to become. Nothing happens to us, everything happens for us. And with that perspective, we can be shaped and molded by every single situation, every single external situation that we face, extract what we're supposed to extract, the goodness of it, and again, become the fullest expression of who we're born to become. And when you live in alignment with what that calling is upon your life, I tell you what, that's to me where life is. That's the deep sense of satisfaction that you get from living, again in alignment, but also as the fullest expression of who you're born to become. So, living a very blessed life, very, very passionate, very inspired. And now being called to step out onto the global stage, brother, and bring my messages of love, hope, healing, and transformation to the world. I don't see any difference between me and Tony Robbins, or me and Joe Dispenza, or me and anyone that you put in front of me. So it's a big vision. I want to bring change to this world. I want to bring unity. Don't worry about race, color, religion. That's all. These are all false perceptions, right? The time now is for unity. The time is for transcendence. The time is for peace. What we see happening on the global scale right now, I believe that there is a calling on my life to assist the raising of human consciousness and the healing, the journey of healing, the journey of forgiveness, the journey of transcending these old stories. Again, the ego loves the attachment to these old identities. It's time for transcendence. It's time that we heal. It's time that we release ourselves from this self-imposed cycle of suffering. And it's the same on the individual level as it is the collective level. So, brother, this is my calling. Again, very inspired, very passionate now to step out onto the global stage and see where I can get to. We can identify that we're all one. We're brothers and sisters. And I believe that unity, when we drop the veil, the illusion of separateness, we identify with the oneness, we focus on our commonalities. Because at our very soul, our spirit level, we all want food. We need food. We need water. We need love. We need validation. We need support. These are commonalities, right? And they're going to, again, the illusion of territorialism. What are we defending? We live on the same world. We live on the same earth. The world is an abundant world. What are we fighting over? Over natural resources and minerals that we're calling ours. Again, this is an ego attachment to what we call ours. It gives us something to defend. The time now is for that illusion to drop, to fold away. We step into truth, right? And we focus on fighting common enemies, not each other. If I can transcend my journey as an individual, everyone can transcend their journey as an individual. If we can transcend as individuals, we become the ripple effect, right? We affect our circle, our immediate circle. Then we can affect their circle. And what happens is the same journey that an individual can take, the collective can take, right? And we'll transcend these old stories, the old ego, and we'll let go. So that's my absolute commitment. And I'm just one man living from an open heart, from a place of humility, wanting to bring change to the world. And I'm not going to stop, brother. I want millions of people to hear a voice of unity. I want the governments to know, and I'm not condemning them. I want them to know what the power of the people is, the people who are doing their work to shift back into their heart space. Right? I want them to know what the power of love can do, what the power of unity can do. And like I say, brother, just bring some change to the world.
The power of love, man, such a beautiful thing. And but definitely the highest vibration, man, is good old love, man. And
Yeah.
like you said, bro, it'll help us transcend the ick of this world. And exactly, bro, while we finding each other.
Right, just before I do go, I really am putting together an amazing group of supporters on TikTok and across my social media platforms. It's not Andrew Geldert, it's Drew Geldert. My old Andrew Geldert platform got shut down some time ago for some copyright infringement or something. So it's Drew Geldert across Insta, TikTok, and Facebook. Connect with me there. I'm also connecting with some really beautiful people. I've written a movie. It's called The Perfect World, The Power of Human Potential. It's going to be the biggest movie ever made. It's going to show the world what we can do if we were to apply the right mindset. I use the model of a perfect world that lies in another universe far, far away. They find us and they help us heal. That movie concept is again a part of my alignment and a part of the love letter that I'm bringing to the world. A huge vision, but inspired by that. So yeah, love people to get behind the cause, get behind the messages, give us a follow, and yeah, let's take this journey.
Let's take this journey, brother. So again, I will leave all of those links in the description. So in the description and in the comments. So definitely go check Drew out. And brother, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, man. You touched my heart for sure, brother, seeing what you've been able to overcome and coming out all smiles in the end, brother. It's definitely gonna inspire a lot of people, bro. So again, thank you for taking the time for jumping on the show, brother.
You're so welcome, man. It's absolute privilege for me to be here talking with you. Again, congratulations on what you're doing, mate. Keep showing up for yourself. You too are infinite. Beautiful man, mate. So keep doing what you do, brother.
All right. Peace, Drew. We'll talk soon, my brother.
See you, man. Thank you.